Welcome to Rich Conversations. Welcome to Miami. This is actually the earliest I've recorded a podcast episode, catching me at the early hours. I thought, we're here in Miami. Why don't we talk about the observations and experiences we've had over the last few days? First thing I notice is the heat, and second would be the colors. Very vibrant. I would say the main colors that I see and observe: green, white, and blue. So the green with the vegetation, there's so much rain and heat that there's just life everywhere, and it's pretty incredible. Pink is probably another color, I would say, but definitely blue, green, and white. White, I went to actually the Frost Science Museum, and they had this like block display up on the rooftop, and they had this like solar display, and you could put your hand on like a white textile or not textile, like a block, say a block, and then a black one, and the heat from the black one is a lot hotter. So none of the buildings are black. It's all mainly white and light colors. And then blue because the water and also the sky. So you have, all the trees, and then the white houses and architecture, and then the sky. It's interesting because the colors in Chicago, there's way more browns, a lot more industrial brick, right? So that's very interesting to me, and it's kind of uplifting. The hot weather and the colors, it's pretty nice. One of my favorite things I've been doing here is just getting up early, like usual, and journaling. But I come out here in the courtyard of our Airbnb. It's where we're recording this, and just journaling and thinking endlessly, no time limit. And it's pretty nice because typically you have in the back of your head, like, oh, I'm gonna go work out after this, or I have work to do next. That's probably the nicest thing about being on vacation, is being able to think and reflect with no time concerns. That is truly a privilege. That is incredible. I've also been reading The Perennial Philosophy by Aldous Huxley. This is an intense book. It really is. I'm only like 18 pages in. You really have to digest everything that he's saying. So this is like, he's looking at religions and spiritual traditions throughout the world and how they're all kind of similar in a way. Let's read some of the stuff I highlighted. Where there's a will, there is always an intellectual way. The capacities of the human mind are almost indefinitely great. Heck yeah. To become godlike is to identify ourselves with the divine element, which in fact constitutes our essential nature, but of which, in our mainly voluntary ignorance, we choose to remain unaware. This is an interesting one. Hence, the attempt to impose more unity upon societies than their individual members are ready for makes it psychologically almost impossible for those individuals to realize their unity with the divine ground and with one another. That is interesting. So it's intense. I've been reading that. The flora and the fauna are what stick out to me a lot. There's so many different plants I haven't seen before. When I see a palm tree, I'm instantly relaxed. I think paradise. I think vacation. And I wonder if people who live where there are palm trees, if they look at like northern like oak trees as paradise or vacation, or I don't know. Palm trees. The other day, so Bones and Ken and I, we were walking back from Miami Beach, and you see these like husks of palm trees that have like fallen on the ground, And I'm like, as we're walking places, I'm just touching every like possible plant, feeling the textures, and this palm tree. It was like wallpaper. It felt like wallpaper. It's this thickness and this smoothness. Really interesting. We have these like bushes over here in the courtyard. Let's see if I can show you one. It's like this. Look at it. Look at this leaf. It's like a teardrop, but it's this green like wax coating, and it's like thick. It almost feels like fake in a way. And there's these pink flowers behind me on the trees. See lizards, like 3 to 4 inches long. There's these like ducks with this like pink on their beak, and there's these ducklings, and they just hang out by the Airbnb. Stray cats. There's these 2 calico stray cats. I wonder if they're around. It doesn't look like it right now, but they just hang out. And it would be walking around, and it'd be like at night, and you look into this alleyway, and there's like gangs of stray cats, like 11 cats, just like staring at you. Kind of haunting. Enjoy the heat. The weather's pretty great. We went to, let's see, what have we done so far? My favorite thing to do is walk around in cities, but I have found the urban planning here to be very unsatisfactory. There's no cohesion to the city. It's just like, I've never seen as many like vacant buildings and massive construction at the same time. So you have buildings over here, then over there, and then like, what is this area, and what is? It's really strange. And as someone who just appreciates, planning and making it more enjoyable for the people that live there, and like have a flow to it, it's disturbs me. Yeah, there's that like really bothers me. As someone who I walked the other day. Being a northern boy, the heat is pretty intense. I sweat quite a lot, so I'll be walking. I'm going to the museum, which is like 2 miles away, and then once you get inside, you're just like have to put on a different shirt. That's interesting. Going out on the beach, we've had this conversation about like money here, and how if you go to like Miami Beach, there's all these Ferraris and Porsches and sports cars, fancy cars, and then we're walking back, and there's these massive houses. So we're walking back on Venetian Way, which is like over the water, and there's all these houses, like minimal style houses, right on the water with the boats. You'll see like one time we saw the exact same boat, but one was smaller. So we're curious, is one neighbor feeling insufficient compared to the next because, I wish my boat was bigger? There's a lot of this, I think, keeping up with the Joneses here, using terms like the hedonic treadmill and what's the comparison one? I don't know what the psychological term for the scientific like keeping up with the Joneses, but from an outsider, if you live in Miami, you make a lot of money, you drive a Ferrari, you have a beautiful house and a boat. Objectively, that seems like an incredible life, and then living in the weather. But then when you live here, if everybody that surrounds you has the exact same thing, like what's what's the point in a way? And can one still be happy? It seems like the happiness here, especially Miami Beach, and then you walk over to the mainland, I think it's a little different. Especially like the neighborhood we're in right now, I think it's the Design District. It's not as opulent, but it's an interesting thing. So we've been having conversations about like happiness, and most people would want this life, but is that life and the people that live that life truly happy? Because there's always something more you could buy because somebody else is buying it. And so just like we talk about on this podcast, it really comes down to you have to identify what you want out of life, right? What would make you happy, not what you think other people think happiness is, in a way, right? And this consumerism, is it all worth it? Is that what would make you happy? Some of my thoughts right now aren't really flushed out. It's pretty early. It's kind of strange. Everything's just kind of like spread out. Got to walk everywhere. Learned the buses are free right now because of COVID, but starting June they won't be free. Good to know after I spent a couple of days just walking, sweat, heat exhaustion, drink some Pedialyte. I checked out the Perez Art Museum, Museum of Design and something or other in the Freedom Tower. That was interesting to know. There's this beautiful building called the Freedom Tower downtown, kind of by American Airlines Arena and the Frost Museum, the Perez Museum. And it's beautiful. There's a Cuban flag that flies out there. And I asked kind of the history of it. And the building in the 60s, when Cubans were coming here, Cuban exile, I'm not too familiar with the history, but they would use the building to house, shelter, feed Cubans and kind of help them go out, either stay in Miami or other places in the U.S. They would help facilitate that whole process. And the Cuban population here is very prevalent, Latin population. We've talked about how geography so often shapes culture and history. Geography, right? Something you don't see here are Asians. And it's not that Asians wouldn't like to live here. It's beautiful here. But like geographically, they're so far away, right? Instead, you have this population that has roots in the Caribbean and culture there, and they bring the culture here. So large Cuban population. My first Cubano sandwich, which is quite delicious. And just how the history and everything affects the individual culture. Some things we've done. We went to Wynwood, which is this area nearby where there's just like art everywhere, street art and murals, things like that. Very colorful, very vibrant. There's on the sidewalk, it's just littered with like inspirational quotes with people's Instagram handles. Reminds me of what I would imagine LA, kind of like the LA scene. I feel like Wynwood is for like tryhards and like social media influencers to take photos and everything. It's cool, but I almost feel like it tries too hard to be cool. That's just my opinion. We checked out the what is it called? The Wynwood Walls. That'd be like the place where people would, like hipsters would want to live or something. I don't know. Miami's been interesting. We've gone to the beach, gone to art museums, walked around Wynwood, gone to the water, smoked cigars, drank rum, read books, reflected, thought, enjoyed the weather. That's the biggest thing, is enjoying the weather. Would I live here? I don't know, but I'm very interested in snowbird locations around the United States for future purposes. So it's cool to kind of scout out Miami. I really dig the Latin culture here, and it's got a good spirit about it.